Well, hello to my Sunday school friends. It is really good to see you. I hope you are well. I hope your summer is going well, that you're doing the right mix of working and playing, and that you're getting strong, both your body and your mind and your spirit. We're going to keep telling our story, and today we're going to talk about how Solomon built the temple. All right, so you remember that when David was king, he wanted to build a temple. He wanted to build a temple just like the tabernacle that the Israelites had in the wilderness, except he wanted it to be out of wood and stone. He wanted it to be beautiful and glorious. And God said to David, "No, you've been a man of war. I don't want you to build my house. Your son Solomon, when he's king, he can build it." And so David accepted that, and David obeyed God. But David began to make plans for the temple, and he shared those plans with Solomon. He began to collect stuff for the temple that would be needed, fabrics and gold and silver and iron, and he got ready. So when Solomon became king, he wanted to pick this up, this promise that David had made, and he wanted to make the temple. He wanted to build God a very special house. So he talked to King Hiram of Tyre, and he asked him to please cut down trees for the wood that he would need to make this house of God. Now, King Hiram of Tyre was in Lebanon, what's now Lebanon, and the mountains of Lebanon were covered with beautiful cedar trees and fir trees. And King Hiram had been David's friend, and he was very happy to help his son. And Solomon said, please have your servants do this. I'll pay you. My servants can come and help. And the king of Tyre, King Hiram, said, "No, that's not necessary. I was a friend of your dad, and I'm glad to help you. I'll have my servants cut the trees. They'll drop them in the sea. We'll float them down to where your servants can pull them out. You can pay me in food. Right? Just send food up here and everything will be good." And so that's what happened. They went to work. King Hiram's servants cut down trees and put them in the Mediterranean Sea. Solomon's servants brought food up to Lebanon and fished the trees out of the sea and sawed them into boards. And those two kings and their people, they lived in peace. Solomon also instructed men to begin cutting great giant stones for the foundation of the temple and for the courts of the temple. And he commanded that all of the stones should be cut to size in the quarry. And then when they were ready, they'd all be brought to Jerusalem and put into place. And Solomon wanted the temple built in such a way that all the pieces just fit together. He didn't want a single nail in the whole thing, right? He wanted the stone and the wood and everything else to just fit perfectly. So while that was going on, of course, Solomon had to pick a place for the temple to go, and he picked Mount Moriah, where David had seen the vision of the angel above the threshing floor. Remember that? And then David had built an altar there, and God had taken away the plague that was on the people. And Solomon figured that was a perfect place for a temple, and the new altar, the great altar of the new temple, would be in exactly the same spot where David's altar had been, where David had seen the angel. So it all started coming together. It took thousands of workers working for 7 years to build the temple. And when it was done, it was glorious. It was set up just like the tabernacle. There was an inner chamber, a holy of holies. There was a holy place. There was a place for the priests. There was a great courtyard where the men of Israel could be. It was a wonder. And so Solomon sent out a message to all the people of Israel that they should come, be part of opening this temple, of beginning the worship of God in this place. Their sacrifices were offered. They brought all the furniture from the tabernacle and put it in the temple. They brought the Ark of God and put it in the Holy of Holies. And when the Ark of God entered the temple, the presence of God filled the temple like a cloud, and everyone knew that God was there and that God had accepted this temple. So Solomon prayed, that God would continue to occupy the temple, that God would hear the prayers of God's people in the temple, that people who prayed for forgiveness would receive God's forgiveness, and then he sent everybody home. That night, or shortly thereafter, Solomon was sleeping and he had a dream. And in the dream, God said to him that as long, Solomon, as you and your children follow me and obey my commandments, I will care for you and your kingdom will never be taken from you. But if you forget me, or if your children forget me, if you worship other gods, if your children worship other gods, then I will abandon this house that you have built, and great suffering will come upon the people. It's pretty clear, isn't it? You'd think Solomon would pay attention to that he would do what he was supposed to do. You can probably guess. But we'll get to that next week. I do thank you. I want you to think about this beautiful temple that Solomon built. I want you to think about how God is so good to us, that God comes and stays among us. And of course, that was just the smallest part of what you and I know, that Jesus actually took on a human body, joined a human family, became part of us forever. That's a great miracle. So think about the house of God. And think about how Jesus brought the house of God so much closer. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.